Most people spend their lives trying to earn more money without ever asking a more important question. What is wealth, really? Because money by itself is not the goal. Money is just a tool. Wealth is something deeper. Wealth is the ability to live life on your own terms. If you need permission to live the life you want, you are not wealthy, no matter how much money you have. I've noticed that many people confuse effort with results. They believe that if they work harder, stay busier, and sacrifice more, wealth will eventually follow. Sometimes it does. Most of the time, it doesn't. Hard work is admirable, but hard work alone does not scale. If you trade time for money, there is a natural ceiling to how wealthy you can become. There are only so many hours in a day, and when your time is gone, so is your income. That is not wealth. That is labor.
True wealth is created when you separate your effort from your reward. When you build something once and it continues to create value long after the work is done. This is the fundamental shift most people never make. They optimize for effort instead of leverage. They optimize for activity instead of judgment.
Let's clarify something important. Money is not the same thing as wealth. Money is how we transfer value. Wealth is what remains when you stop working. If you have a high income but no freedom, you are still trapped, just more comfortably. If you have modest income but full control over your time, your attention, and your choices, you are closer to wealth than most people realize. This is why chasing money directly is usually a mistake. Money responds to value, not the other way around. When you focus on creating value, especially value that can scale, money becomes a side effect. In the modern world, wealth is less about what you do and more about how you think. The biggest financial rewards do not go to the hardest workers. They go to those who make better decisions. Better decisions about what to work on, when to work, who to work with, and just as importantly, what to ignore. Most people never question the default path. Go to school, get credentials, get a job, climb a ladder. This path can provide comfort and stability, but it rarely leads to freedom. Because it teaches obedience, not judgment, compliance, not creativity. The world rewards people who can think independently, people who can see what others don't, people who can patiently build while others rush, people who understand that short-term comfort often destroys long-term outcomes. Wealth, at its core, is about optionality, the ability to walk away, the ability to say no, the ability to choose the long game. If you are forced to accept every opportunity, you have none. This is why freedom is the real metric of success. Not status, not possessions, not approval. Freedom over your time, freedom over your attention, freedom over your values. Everything else is noise. In the next part, I want to talk about the force that makes modern wealth possible at scale. The concept that quietly separates those who struggle endlessly from those who build once and benefit for decades. That force is leverage. And once you truly understand it, you begin to see the world very differently. If there is one concept that explains almost all modern wealth, it is leverage. Leverage is the ability to create more output from the same amount of input. It is how small efforts turn into massive results. And it is the reason why a few people create extraordinary wealth, while most others remain stuck trading time for money. For most of human history, leverage was rare. If you wanted to build something meaningful, you needed land, armies, factories, or political power. Leverage belonged to kings, governments, and large institutions. The individual had very little. That has changed. Today, leverage is more accessible than at any other point in history, and most people still don't understand it. There are four major types of leverage in the modern world: labor, capital, code, and media. Each one allows you to multiply your efforts in different ways, but not all leverage is equal.
Labor leverage is the oldest form. You hire people to work for you. Your output increases because many hands are now working toward the same goal. This form of leverage built companies and empires, but it comes with costs. People require management. People introduce complexity. People do not scale infinitely. And eventually, labor leverage turns into responsibility rather than freedom.
Capital leverage is money working for you. You invest capital into assets, businesses, or ideas, and the returns compound over time. This is powerful leverage, but it has a gatekeeper. You usually need capital to begin with, which means capital leverage tends to benefit those who already have money. The most interesting forms of leverage are different. They do not require permission, they do not require large amounts of upfront capital, and they scale without proportional increases in effort. These forms are code and media. Code is leverage because it allows you to build something once and have it run indefinitely. A small piece of software can serve millions of people. It does not get tired, it does not ask for raises. Code works while you sleep. Media is leverage because it allows you to broadcast ideas at scale. A single message can reach millions of minds, and once created, media can continue to create value long after the effort is finished. Like code, media has near zero marginal cost, and like code, it does not require permission. This is why the internet changed everything. For the first time in history, individuals gained access to the same leverage once reserved for institutions. You no longer need a factory to reach the world. You no longer need a printing press to share ideas. You no longer need an organization to distribute value. You just need judgment. The internet does not reward effort. It rewards leverage applied with good judgment. This is a difficult truth for many people to accept because effort feels fair, judgment feels uncertain, but fairness has nothing to do with outcomes. In a leveraged world, the difference between success and failure is not how hard you work. It is what you choose to work on and how patiently you pursue it. Most people are uncomfortable with leverage. They prefer linear systems. Work more hours, earn more money. This feels safe, predictable. But linear systems cap your upside. Leverage introduces volatility in the short term and massive asymmetry in the long term. This is why creators, builders, and investors often appear to succeed overnight. What you don't see is the years of quiet work, the experiments that failed, the skills compounded invisibly. Leverage magnifies results, but only after judgment has been applied correctly. One of the most misunderstood aspects of leverage is that it amplifies both success and failure. If your judgment is poor, leverage will punish you faster. If your judgment is sound, leverage will reward you exponentially. This is why learning to think clearly is more valuable than learning specific tactics. In the modern world, leverage rewards originality. If you are replaceable, you have no leverage. If your work can be easily copied, you have no leverage. If you depend entirely on someone else's permission, you have no leverage. Leverage favors those who build unique things, unique perspectives, unique skills, unique combinations of knowledge. The goal is not to compete in crowded markets. The goal is to create something so aligned with your own thinking that competition becomes irrelevant. This is why playing status games is a trap. Status is a zero-sum game. For you to rise, someone else must fall. Leverage is not zero-sum. When you create value at scale, everyone can benefit. Wealth created through leverage tends to be quieter, less visible, less performative. It is built in silence, then revealed all at once. Most people spend their lives optimizing for comfort. Leverage requires patience. It requires the ability to delay gratification, to look foolish in the short term, to build when there is no applause. The paradox of leverage is that it often looks unproductive. You may appear idle, unambitious, slow, but internally you are making decisions that compound. You are choosing foundations over appearances. Leverage works best when combined with a long-term mindset. Short-term thinking destroys leverage. Impatience turns asymmetric opportunities into average outcomes. The biggest rewards go to those who can wait. In the next part, we'll talk about the kind of knowledge that allows leverage to work in your favor, the knowledge that cannot be taught in classrooms, the knowledge that feels like play, the knowledge that makes you irreplaceable. This is what I call specific knowledge, and it is the real foundation beneath sustainable wealth. If leverage is the engine of modern wealth, then specific knowledge is the fuel. Without it, leverage amplifies nothing. With it, even small actions can compound into extraordinary results. Specific knowledge is not found in textbooks. It is not taught in classrooms. It cannot be standardized, certified, or mass-produced, and that is exactly why it is valuable. Most of what schools teach is general knowledge. Reading, writing, math, basic reasoning. These skills are important, but they are not rare. And in a competitive world, what is common is not rewarded. Specific knowledge is different. It is deeply personal. It comes from a unique combination of your interests, experiences, curiosities, and obsessions. It often looks messy from the outside, and it rarely feels like work to the person who possesses it. Specific knowledge is the kind of knowledge that feels like play. You pursue it because you can't help yourself, because it genuinely fascinates you, because you would do it even if no one was watching. This is why it is so hard to compete with. No one can outwork you at something you enjoy. People often ask how to find specific knowledge. The wrong question. Specific knowledge reveals itself when you stop trying to be strategic and start paying attention to what naturally draws you in. Your curiosities are not random. They are signals. Ignore them and you spend your life forcing yourself to care. Follow them and you begin building something authentic. This is also why copying others rarely works in the long run. You can copy tactics, you can copy business models, you can copy surface-level behavior, but you cannot copy curiosity. And without curiosity, there is no deep understanding. Specific knowledge compounds when combined with leverage, a unique perspective expressed through media, a rare skill embedded into code, a deep understanding applied to capital. This is how individuals outperform institutions. But knowledge alone is not enough. What truly separates outcomes is judgment. Judgment is knowing what to do when there is no instruction manual. It is the ability to evaluate information, weigh trade-offs, and choose wisely under uncertainty. Judgment cannot be outsourced. It cannot be automated, and it cannot be taught directly. It must be earned. You develop judgment by making decisions and paying attention to the results, not by avoiding mistakes, but by learning from them. Good judgment comes from experience. Experience often comes from bad judgment. This is why shortcuts rarely work. Borrowed confidence collapses under pressure. Borrowed beliefs fail when reality pushes back. Only deeply internalized understanding holds. People with strong judgment do fewer things, but they choose better. They say no far more often than they say yes. They understand that opportunity cost is real and that every commitment closes other doors. Most people are overwhelmed not because they lack opportunity, but because they lack judgment. They chase everything and master nothing. They confuse motion with progress. Specific knowledge also teaches you what not to care about. It filters noise. It simplifies decisions. It creates clarity. In a world drowning in information, clarity is a superpower. Another important aspect of specific knowledge is that it cannot be separated from character. You cannot fake long-term thinking. You cannot fake curiosity. And you cannot fake integrity indefinitely. Reputation becomes a form of leverage over time, and reputation is built through consistent judgment. People who think long-term attract other long-term thinkers. They build trust, they reduce friction, they create compounding relationships. This is why who you work with matters as much as what you work on. Specific knowledge also frees you from comparison. When you are building something uniquely aligned with your interests, there is no one to race against. There is only depth to explore. The ultimate goal is not to be busy. The goal is to be effective, to apply leverage where it matters, to use judgment to decide where effort is worth placing. In the next part, we'll talk about the invisible forces that shape outcomes over decades. Luck, time, long-term games, and why patience is not a virtue but a competitive advantage. When people look at success from the outside, they often attribute it to luck. And they're not entirely wrong. Luck plays a role in every outcome. But most people misunderstand how luck actually works. There are different kinds of luck. The first kind is blind luck, random chance, being in the right place at the right time. This kind of luck is real, but it is unreliable. You cannot plan for it, you cannot repeat it, and you cannot build a life around it. The second kind of luck comes from persistence. You keep showing up, you keep experimenting, you keep trying. Eventually, probability bends in your favor. This kind of luck can be cultivated, but it still depends on volume rather than insight. The third kind of luck comes from preparation. You spend years building skills, learning, understanding systems, and when an opportunity appears, you are ready to recognize it. To others, it looks like luck. To you, it looks inevitable. The fourth kind of luck is the most powerful. It comes from unique character. When you build a rare combination of skills, values, and perspective, opportunities begin to find you. Luck becomes attracted to who you are. This is not random. It is the result of long-term consistency. In the long run, luck favors clarity. It favors people who know what they are building and why they are building it. It favors those who are patient enough to allow compounding to do its work. Compounding is not just a financial concept. It applies to nearly everything that matters. Knowledge compounds, relationships compound, reputation compounds, judgment compounds. But compounding is slow, and that is why most people never benefit from it. The human brain is wired for immediate rewards. We want feedback now, validation now, results now. But the most valuable outcomes in life are delayed. They require patience without external reinforcement. This is why long-term games are so powerful. A long-term game is one where trust matters, reputation matters, and short-term cheating destroys future value. In long-term games, integrity becomes a competitive advantage. When you play long-term games with long-term people, you remove the need for constant defense. You don't have to optimize every interaction. You don't have to extract maximum value immediately. You let relationships deepen. You let trust compound. Short-term thinkers often appear to win early. They move fast. They exploit loopholes. They chase quick gains. But short-term strategies collapse under time. They burn bridges. They create fragility.
Time exposes everything. It rewards consistency. It punishes shortcuts. This is why patience is not passivity. Patience is strategic endurance.
Another factor most people ignore is the role of environment. You do not rise to your goals. You fall to your systems, your habits, your inputs, your surroundings. These shape your behavior far more than motivation ever will. If your environment encourages distraction, your focus will erode. If your environment rewards shallow thinking, your depth will disappear. If your environment tolerates chaos, your results will reflect it. Designing your environment is one of the highest leverage decisions you can make. Remove friction from good behaviors. Add friction to bad ones. Make focus easier. Make distraction harder. This is not discipline, it is design. Your information diet matters as much as your food diet. What you consume shapes how you think. Endless noise creates shadow judgment. Calm, high-quality input creates clarity. Choose carefully what you let into your mind. Over time, your environment becomes your destiny. Not through dramatic changes, but through subtle daily reinforcement. The people you spend time with also shape your outcomes. Ambition is contagious. So is complacency. Surround yourself with those who think long-term, who value honesty, who are willing to wait for meaningful outcomes. Luck, time, and environment are always working. Whether they work for you or against you depends on how intentionally you design your life. In the final part, we'll step back from wealth entirely, because money, leverage, and success mean very little without peace of mind. We'll talk about happiness, freedom, and what all of this is really for. After all the discussions about wealth, leverage, and long-term games, it's easy to lose sight of what all of this is actually for. Money is not the end goal. Leverage is not the end goal. Even success is not the end goal. The real goal is freedom, and freedom begins in the mind. Many people believe that happiness comes after success, that once they reach a certain level of wealth or status or recognition, peace of mind will naturally follow. This is almost always backwards. If you are unhappy before success, you will likely be unhappy after it, just with more resources to distract yourself. Happiness is not something you find. It is something you practice. It is a skill, and like any skill, it improves with understanding and repetition. At its core, happiness is the absence of desire for things to be different. It is not excitement. It is not pleasure. It is contentment with the present moment. This does not mean complacency. It means clarity. Desire is a contract you make with yourself to be unhappy until you get what you want. Some desires are worth having. Most are inherited from society. Status, comparison, approval. These desires never end. They create a treadmill with no finish line. One of the most valuable forms of freedom is freedom from social comparison. When you stop measuring your life against others, you reclaim enormous mental energy. You begin making decisions based on values, not validation. Another critical component of happiness is peace of mind. Peace of mind comes from living in alignment with your principles. When your actions and values are misaligned, the mind becomes noisy. When they are aligned, life becomes simpler. This is why integrity matters so much. Integrity is not moral superiority. It is internal consistency. It is doing what you believe is right even when no one is watching, especially when no one is watching. Freedom also means freedom from fear. Fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear of being wrong. Most fear comes from fragile identities. When your sense of self depends on external approval, every decision feels risky. A strong sense of self reduces fear. Not because you stop caring, but because you stop outsourcing your worth. This is also where wealth, properly understood, becomes useful. Wealth buys you time. It buys you space. It buys you the ability to choose your environment. Used wisely, it reduces stress. Used poorly, it amplifies anxiety. The ultimate purpose of wealth is to free your attention, to allow you to focus on what matters: health, relationships, learning, creation. If wealth does not improve your inner life, it has failed its purpose. Another overlooked aspect of happiness is physical well-being. A calm mind is difficult to maintain in an unhealthy body. Sleep, movement, nutrition. These are not productivity hacks, they are foundations. When your body is regulated, your mind becomes clearer. When your mind is clear, your judgment improves. Everything is connected. Freedom also means freedom from constant stimulation. The modern world profits from your distraction. Silence has become rare and therefore valuable. Make space for stillness. Reflection is where understanding consolidates. Many insights arrive not through effort, but through rest, through walks, through quiet moments, through boredom. These are not wasted time. They are where synthesis happens. At the highest level, a good life is not complicated. It is built from a few simple principles applied consistently. Think clearly, act honestly, build patiently, choose long-term games, protect your peace of mind. Most people never stop long enough to question the assumptions guiding their lives. They inherit goals they didn't choose. They chase rewards they don't actually want. Freedom begins with questioning. When you understand leverage, you stop worshiping effort. When you understand specific knowledge, you stop copying others. When you understand compounding, you stop rushing. When you understand happiness, you stop postponing your life. Wealth is not about winning. It is about independence. Independence of thought, independence of time, independence of values. The goal is not to escape society, but to participate in it on your own terms, to contribute without being consumed. Most people never truly ask themselves what they want from life. Not what sounds impressive, not what others expect, but what actually brings them peace. That question is worth answering slowly, because once you design your life around freedom and clarity, wealth becomes a natural outcome, not a desperate pursuit. And happiness stops being a distant reward and becomes part of the journey itself.